The unexpected summons. Sarah Chen wiped the sweat from her brow as she gazed up at the gleaming skyscraper. The midsummer heat in New York City was unforgiving, but as a construction site manager, she was used to working in tough conditions. What she wasn't used to was the strange tingling sensation that had been crawling across her skin all morning. "Chen, we need you on the 35th floor," her radio crackled. Sarah sighed, tightening her hard hat before stepping into the construction elevator. As it ascended, the tingling intensified, spreading from her fingertips to her arms, then throughout her entire body. By the time the elevator dinged on the 35th floor, Sarah felt as if she were vibrating from the inside out. She stumbled out onto the unfinished floor, her vision blurring. "What the hell?" she muttered, reaching out to steady herself against a support beam. But her hand never made contact. Instead, the world around her seemed to dissolve, replaced by a whirlwind of colors and sensations. Sarah's stomach lurched as she felt herself being pulled, stretched, compressed, all at once. When the world finally stopped spinning, Sarah found herself sprawled on a cold, metallic floor. The air around her hummed with an otherworldly energy, and the scent of ozone filled her nostrils. Groaning, she pushed herself up, her eyes widening as she took in her surroundings. Gone was the half-finished office building. In its place was a vast chamber with soaring ceilings of iridescent crystal. Intricate patterns swirled across the walls, pulsing with a soft blue light. And standing before her, regarding her with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension, were three figures unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. Their skin was a deep, midnight blue, shimmering as if dusted with starlight. Silver hair cascaded down their backs and their eyes, pupilless and glowing with an inner light, fixed upon Sarah with an unsettling intensity. The central figure, taller than the others and draped in flowing robes of deep purple, stepped forward. "Human," the alien spoke, its voice resonating in Sarah's mind rather than her ears. "You have been summoned." Sarah scrambled to her feet, her heart pounding. "Summoned? What the hell is going on? Who are you? Where am I?" The alien raised a hand, and Sarah felt a wave of calm wash over her. It wasn't natural, and she fought against it, her engineer's mind racing to make sense of the impossible situation. "I am Zarel, High Seer of Lumina," the alien said. "You stand within the Temple of Starlight, on a world far from your own. We have brought you here because our need is dire, and only a human of Earth can aid us." Sarah's mind reeled. Aliens. Another world. It was too much to process. "This has to be a dream," she muttered. "Or maybe I fell and hit my head. Yeah, that's it. I'm probably in a hospital right now, high on pain meds." Zarel's expression remained impassive. "This is no dream, Sarah Chen. The fate of our world, and perhaps your own, rests upon your shoulders." "How do you know my name?" Sarah demanded, her shock giving way to a mixture of fear and anger. "And what do you mean, the fate of your world? I'm a construction manager, not some intergalactic hero." One of the other aliens stepped forward, this one's robes a deep green. "The prophecy speaks of a human with the power to awaken our Empress," it said, its mental voice tinged with urgency. "A human whose energy resonates with the cosmic frequencies of our world. We have searched for centuries, and now finally we have found you." Sarah shook her head, backing away. "Look, I don't know anything about prophecies or empresses. There has to be some mistake. Just send me back. Please." But as she moved, her foot struck something on the floor. Looking down, Sarah saw a small crystalline object, similar to the walls of the chamber, but condensed and glowing with an inner fire. Without thinking, she bent to pick it up. The moment her fingers touched the crystal, a jolt of energy surged through her body. Sarah gasped, her vision filling with strange symbols and swirling galaxies. She saw a figure of light, trapped in darkness. She felt an overwhelming sense of urgency, of a civilization on the brink of collapse. And beneath it all, a connection, a resonance between herself and this alien world that she couldn't explain but couldn't deny. As the vision faded, Sarah found herself on her knees, breathing heavily. The three aliens watched her with a mixture of awe and relief. "You see," Zarl said softly, "you are the one we have waited for." Sarah looked up, her mind still reeling from the vision. What? What was that? A glimpse of our Empress's mind. The third alien, clad in robes of deep blue, explained. For millennia, she has slumbered in stasis, her vast powers sealed away to protect our world from those who would misuse them. But now, a great darkness threatens to consume us, and only the Empress's power can save us. Sarah slowly got to her feet, her engineer's mind already working to make sense of the situation. "And you think I can wake her up? How?" Zarl gestured to the crystals Sarah had touched. "The resonance stone responded to you. It is attuned to the Empress's energy signature. Your ability to activate it proves that you possess the unique frequency needed to break the stasis seal." Sarah looked at the stone, then back at the aliens. Part of her still wanted to believe this was all an elaborate hallucination. But the weight of the vision, the undeniable energy she felt coursing through her body, it was all too real to dismiss. "Okay," she said slowly. "Let's say I believe you. What exactly do you need me to do?" The relief on the aliens' faces was palpable. Zarl stepped forward, placing a hand on Sarah's shoulder. The touch sent another jolt through her body, but this time she was prepared for it. "Come," Zarl said. "We must make haste to the Empress's chamber. Time grows short, and our enemies draw near." As they led her deeper into the temple, Sarah's mind raced. This morning, her biggest concern had been meeting construction deadlines. Now, she was apparently the key to saving an alien civilization. It was absurd, terrifying, and yet exhilarating. She thought of all the sci-fi novels she'd read as a kid, dreaming of adventure among the stars. Well, she thought with a wry smile, be careful what you wish for. The group arrived at a massive set of doors, intricately carved with scenes of cosmic battles and stellar phenomena. As they swung open, Sarah felt a pull in her chest, as if something beyond was calling to her. "The Empress awaits," Zarl said solemnly. "Are you ready, Sarah Chen of Earth, to embrace your destiny?" Sarah took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. She didn't know what lay ahead, but she knew one thing: backing down from a challenge wasn't in her nature. Whether it was a skyscraper or an alien empress, she'd face it head-on. "Ready as I'll ever be," she said, and stepped through the doorway into her new role as humanity's ambassador to the stars. The Awakening. As Sarah stepped through the towering doors, her breath caught in her throat. The chamber before her was vast, its domed ceiling a perfect replica of an alien night sky. Countless stars twinkled overhead, constellations she'd never seen forming intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with life. But it was the center of the room that truly captured her attention. There, suspended in a column of shimmering energy, floated a figure of breathtaking beauty and power: the Empress. Her skin was the deep blue of the deepest ocean, marked with swirling patterns that glowed with an inner light. Her hair, a cascade of starlight, floated around her as if she was suspended in water. Though her eyes were closed, Sarah could feel the weight of millennia behind them. "Empress Lyra," Zarl said softly, reverence clear in their mental voice. "Suspended in stasis for 10,000 years, waiting for the one who could awaken her." Sarah approached cautiously, drawn by an inexplicable pull. As she neared the energy field, she felt the resonance stone in her pocket grow warm. "What do I do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The green-robed alien, who had introduced themselves as Vex, the Lorekeeper, stepped forward. "Place your hand on the field, Sarah Chen. Let your energy connect with the Empress's. If the prophecy is true, your touch should begin the awakening process." Sarah hesitated, her practical nature warring with the undeniable reality before her. "And if it doesn't work, what happens then?" The third alien, Nara, keeper of the seal, spoke up. "Then our world falls to darkness, and yours may follow. The threat we face is not confined to Lumina alone." The weight of responsibility settled heavily on Sarah's shoulders. She took a deep breath, centering herself as she did before tackling any difficult project. "All right," she said, more to herself than the aliens. "Let's do this." She reached out, her hand trembling slightly as it neared the energy field. The air crackled with potential, and Sarah could feel the hairs on her arms standing on end. As her fingertips made contact with the shimmering barrier, a jolt of energy surged through her body. The world exploded into light and sensation. Sarah gasped, overwhelmed by a flood of images and emotions not her own. She saw vast cities of crystal and light, felt the joy of a civilization at its peak. Then came darkness, fear, a terrible threat that forced a desperate decision. Through it all, she felt a presence, ancient, powerful, and undeniably alien. The Empress's consciousness brushed against her own, curious and cautious. "Who are you?" The thought wasn't words so much as a feeling, a query that resonated through Sarah's entire being. "I'm Sarah," she managed to think back, struggling to maintain her sense of self in the overwhelming connection. "I'm here to help." There was a moment of silence, of consideration. Then, slowly, Sarah felt the Empress's consciousness begin to stir. The energy field around them pulsed, growing brighter. In the physical world, the aliens watched in awe as the stasis field began to fluctuate. Arcs of energy danced across its surface, and the Empress's form began to move, ever so slightly. "It's working," Zarel breathed. The prophecy was true. But as the awakening continued, something changed. The energy field's pulsing became erratic, and Sarah's face contorted in pain. Inside the connection, she felt a resistance, a conflict within the Empress's mind. "Danger," came the Empress's thoughts, fragmented and disjointed. "Cannot, must not." "What's happening?" Sarah managed to gasp out loud, her free hand clutching at her chest. It felt as if her very atoms were being torn apart. Nora rushed forward, their face creased with worry. "The Empress's powers are too great, too volatile after so long in stasis. She's fighting the awakening, trying to protect us from the uncontrolled release of her energy." Sarah gritted her teeth, pushing through the pain. In her mind, she reached out to the Empress's consciousness. "It's okay," she thought, trying to project calm and reassurance. "We need you. Your people need you. Let me help." For a moment, the conflict seemed to lessen. Sarah felt a glimmer of hope, of connection. But then, without warning, the energy field exploded in a burst of blinding light. Sarah was thrown backward, skidding across the chamber floor as the aliens cried out in alarm. When the light faded and Sarah's vision cleared, she saw the Empress hovering above the remnants of the stasis field. Her eyes were open now, glowing with barely contained power. But there was confusion in those eyes and fear. "Who dares disturb my slumber?" The Empress's voice echoed through the chamber, each word carrying the weight of command. "Do you not know the danger you court?" Sarah struggled to her feet, her entire body aching from the psychic backlash. "Empress Lyra," she said, her voice hoarse. "My name is Sarah Chen. I was brought here to wake you because your people are in danger." Lyra's gaze fixed on Sarah, her eyes narrowing. "A human, here, on Lumina." She turned to the other aliens, her expression hardening. "Explain yourselves, Guardians. Why have you broken the seal?" Zarel stepped forward, bowing deeply. "Forgive us, your radiance. The darkness you foresaw has returned, stronger than ever. We had no choice but to seek the one prophecy to awaken you." The Empress's face softened slightly, but Sarah could see the tension in her posture, the way energy crackled around her form. "The prophecy," Lyra murmured. "So it has come to pass." She turned back to Sarah, studying her intently. "You carry a resonance I have not felt in eons, but you are untrained, unprepared for the power you've unlocked." Sarah straightened, meeting the Empress's gaze. "Maybe so," she said, her practical nature asserting itself. "But I'm a quick learner, and from what I understand, we don't have the luxury of time. So why don't you tell me what I need to know to help?" For a moment, surprise flickered across Lyra's face, followed by something that might have been amusement. Bold words, human. But you speak truly. Time is not on our side. She descended to the chamber floor, her movements graceful despite the obvious effort it took to contain her power. The awakening is incomplete, Lyra explained, her voice tight with strain. My powers are unstable, dangerous. To fully awaken, to regain control, I require an anchor, a being whose energy can help stabilize and channel my own. Understanding dawned on Sarah, and that's where I come in. Lyra nodded. The resonance between us is strong, stronger than I would have thought possible with a human, but the process will not be easy or safe. Are you willing to take that risk, Sarah Chen? Sarah thought of her life back on Earth, her job, her small apartment, the simple routines she'd left behind. Then she thought of the visions she'd seen, the weight of two worlds resting on her shoulders. I'm willing, she said firmly. Tell me what to do. A small smile graced Lyra's lips. Very well. Take my hands and brace yourself. This may be intense. As Sarah reached out, she saw Zarel move forward out of the corner of her eye. Your radiance, they said urgently. We've received word. The Void Cult's forces are on the move. They know you've awakened. Lyra's expression darkened. Then we have no time to waste. She clasped Sarah's hands in her own, and immediately the world dissolved into light and sensation once more. This time, the connection was deeper, more visceral. Sarah felt as if she were falling into an ocean of starlight, Lyra's consciousness enveloping her own. She saw flashes of luminous history, felt the crushing weight of responsibility that had led Lyra to enter stasis in the first place. And beneath it all, a current of raw, untamed power, beautiful and terrifying in its intensity. Sarah instinctively recoiled from it, but Lyra's mental voice steadied her. Do not fear it, the Empress's thoughts resonated through her. Embrace it, shape it. You are the conduit through which my power can flow safely. Sarah took a deep breath, centering herself as she would before a complex engineering problem. She visualized the energy as a river, wild and chaotic. Slowly, carefully, she began to construct mental channels, directing the flow. In the physical world, the aliens watched in awe as Sarah and Lyra began to glow, their forms obscured by a nimbus of radiant energy. The very air seemed to vibrate with power, and the star patterns on the domed ceiling began to shift and dance. Minutes stretched into hours as Sarah and Lyra worked in silent communion, shaping and stabilizing the Empress's reawakened powers. Finally, with a flash of light that momentarily blinded everyone in the chamber, it was done. Sarah stumbled as the connection eased, her mind reeling from the experience. But she remained standing, supported by Lyra's steady hand on her shoulder. It is done, Lyra announced, her voice strong and clear. The erratic energy around her had calmed, now a steady, controlled aura of power. Thanks to you, Sarah Chen, I am fully awakened. Sarah managed a tired smile. Glad I could help. So, what's next? You mentioned a void cult. Lyra's expression grew serious. Indeed, our enemies approach, and we must prepare for battle. But first, she turned to Zarel and the other guardians. Bring me up to speed on everything I've missed. It seems I have 10,000 years of history to catch up on, and precious little time to do so. As the aliens began their report, Sarah leaned against a nearby pillar, her body exhausted, but her mind buzzing with excitement and trepidation. She'd done the impossible, awakened an alien empress and unlocked powers beyond her wildest dreams. But as she listened to the Guardians speak of gathering darkness and impending conflict, she realized that her journey was only just beginning. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Sarah knew one thing for certain: her life would never be the same again. Allies and enemies. The following days were a whirlwind of activity for Sarah. As Empress Lyra reacquainted herself with the current state of Lumina, Sarah found herself thrust into a crash course on alien politics, culture, and the looming threat they faced. The Void Cult, she learned, was a fanatical group that believed in harnessing the power of cosmic darkness. They sought to overthrow luminous light-based civilization and plunge the galaxy into eternal night. For millennia, they had been little more than a fringe movement, but in Lyra's absence, they had grown powerful, corrupting key figures in Luminous government and military. "It's worse than I feared," Lyra said grimly, after a long briefing session. They stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city of Astralis, its crystal spires glittering in the light of 3 moons. "The cult's influence has spread far and wide. We cannot hope to root them out through official channels alone." Sarah nodded, her mind already working on the problem. "So we need allies, people we can trust, who can work outside the system." Lyra smiled, a hint of approval in her glowing eyes. "Precisely, and I believe I know where to start." Their first stop was the underground laboratory of Dr. Elix, Luminous' foremost expert in cosmic energy manipulation. As they entered the cluttered space, filled with humming machines and holographic displays, Sarah's eyes widened in wonder. It was like every sci-fi lab she'd ever imagined, multiplied by 1,000. A lanky alien with 4 arms and skin that shimmered like oil on water looked up from a complex apparatus. His eyes, all 6 of them, blinked rapidly as he recognized his visitors. "Empress, you're awake." He rushed forward, then stopped short, remembering protocol. "I mean, your radiance, it's an honor." Lyra waved away the formality. "It's good to see you, old friend. We need your help." As Lyra explained the situation, Sarah found herself drawn to one of the lab's displays. It showed a 3-dimensional map of what she assumed was Luminous' solar system, with pulsing lines of energy connecting various celestial bodies. "Fascinating, isn't it?" Dr. Elix's voice startled her. He had sidled up while Lyra was speaking, his eyes fixed on the display. "The cosmic web that connects all things. The source of our power, and potentially our downfall." Sarah turned to him curious. "What do you mean?" Elix's voice dropped to a whisper. "The Void Cult doesn't just want to extinguish our light. They want to invert the cosmic web itself, turning it from a source of creation to one of destruction. If they succeed," he shuddered. "Then we won't let them succeed," Sarah said firmly. Elix studied her for a moment, then nodded. "You're the human, aren't you? The one from the prophecy." He extended one of his hands. "Welcome to the fight." As they shook hands, Sarah felt a tingle of energy pass between them. She was starting to get used to that sensation. Their next stop was the hidden sanctuary of the Starborn, a group of rebel fighters who had been waging a covert war against the Void Cult for years. Their leader, a fierce warrior named Zara, greeted them with suspicion. "How do we know this isn't a trap?" she demanded, her hand resting on the hilt of an energy blade. "The Empress has been gone for millennia, and now she returns with a human in tow." Sarah stepped forward, meeting Zara's gaze. "I get it. You have no reason to trust me. But right now, we're your best shot at stopping the Void Cult. So how about we skip the posturing and get down to business?" For a tense moment, Sarah thought Zara might attack. Then, to her surprise, the warrior burst out laughing. "I like this one," she said to Lyra. "She's got spirit." As they began to plan their resistance, Sarah found herself in awe of the diversity of Luminous people. There were beings of all shapes and sizes, some seemingly made of pure energy, others with physical forms that defied her understanding of biology. Yet they all shared a common purpose: to protect their world from the encroaching darkness. But for every ally they made, it seemed an enemy emerged from the shadows. As word of Lyra's return spread, the Void Cult stepped up their activities. Attacks on key infrastructure increased, and disturbing reports came in of entire communities falling under the cult's sway. The most chilling moment came when they were ambushed on their way back from a meeting with the remnants of Lumina's loyal military. A group of cult fanatics, their bodies twisted and warped by dark energy, burst from concealment. Sarah's newfound combat training kicked in as she ducked an energy blast, rolling behind cover. She watched in amazement as Lyra unleashed her power, beams of pure light lancing out to strike down their attackers. But there were too many, and they were pressing in from all sides. Just as it seemed they might be overwhelmed, a familiar voice rang out. "Duck." Sarah didn't hesitate, pulling Lyra down with her as a wave of multicolored energy washed over them. When she looked up, she saw Dr. Alex standing there, all four of his arms brandishing different high-tech weapons. "Thought you could use a hand," he said with a grin. "Or four." As the dust settled and they tended to their wounds, Sarah couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of her situation. A month ago, her biggest worry had been meeting construction deadlines. Now she was fighting alongside aliens in a cosmic war. Lyra noticed her amusement. "Something funny, Sarah?" Sarah shook her head, still smiling. "Just thinking about how much my life has changed. It's terrifying and exhilarating all at once." Lyra's expression softened. "You've adapted remarkably well. Many would have broken under the pressure." "Well, I've always been good at thinking on my feet," Sarah replied. "Though I usually deal with collapsing buildings, not collapsing civilizations." Their moment of levity was interrupted by an urgent message from Zara. The Void cult was mobilizing for a major offensive. They had mere days to prepare. As they rushed back to their base of operations, Sarah felt a mix of fear and determination. She still didn't fully understand her role in this conflict, or the extent of her connection to Lyra and Lumina's cosmic energy. But she knew one thing for certain: she wasn't going to let her new allies down. That night, as she stood on the balcony of her quarters, looking out at the alien sky, Sarah made a silent vow. Whatever it took, whatever sacrifices she had to make, she would see this through. The fate of two worlds rested on her shoulders, and Sarah Chen was not one to back down from a challenge. Little did she know, the greatest tests of her resolve and her growing bond with Empress Lyra were yet to come. Trials of power. The air crackled with tension as Sarah stood beside Empress Lyra in the heart of the ancient Temple of Resonance. Surrounded by towering crystals that pulsed with ethereal light, Sarah could feel the raw energy of Lumina flowing through her veins. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. "Are you ready?" Lyra asked, her voice gentle but laced with urgency. Sarah took a deep breath, centering herself. "As ready as I'll ever be. Let's do this." They had come to the temple to undergo a series of trials designed to strengthen their bond and unlock the full potential of their combined powers. With the Void cult's major offensive looming, they needed every advantage they could get. The first trial focused on mental synchronization. As Sarah and Lyra joined hands, the crystals around them began to hum, creating a resonance field that amplified their psychic connection. Sarah gasped as she felt her consciousness expand, merging with Lyra's in a way that went beyond their previous links. "Focus." Lyra's thoughts echoed in Sarah's mind. "See through my eyes, and let me see through yours." Sarah concentrated, pushing past the initial disorientation. Slowly, the world around her shifted. She saw Lumina as Lyra did, a tapestry of energy and light, every atom singing with cosmic harmony. At the same time, she felt Lyra experiencing Earth through her memories, the bustle of New York, the satisfaction of a completed construction project, the simple joys of a life so different from her own. As their minds synchronized, the crystals around them blazed with light. Sarah felt a surge of power unlike anything she had experienced before. For a moment, she and Lyra were one being, their strengths and knowledge perfectly complementing each other. When they separated, both were breathing heavily but smiling. "Incredible," Sarah murmured. Lyra nodded, her eyes shining. "And that's just the beginning." The next trial tested their ability to channel and control cosmic energy together. Standing at opposite ends of a vast chamber, they had to create and maintain a bridge of pure light between them, all while defending against simulated Void cult attacks. At first, it was a struggle. Sarah's human physiology wasn't naturally attuned to manipulating cosmic forces, and she found herself overwhelmed by the sheer intensity of the energy flowing through her. But as the trial progressed, she began to adapt, drawing on her engineering background to visualize the energy as complex systems and circuits. "That's it," Lyra called out encouragingly as Sarah successfully deflected a particularly nasty attack while maintaining their energy bridge. "You're a natural, Sarah." Hours passed as they faced increasingly difficult challenges. They learned to combine their powers in new and innovative ways. Lyra's raw cosmic might tempered and focused by Sarah's analytical mind and problem-solving skills. But the final trial proved to be the most harrowing. As they entered a shadowy chamber deep within the temple, Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The air here felt wrong somehow. "This chamber is infused with traces of void energy," Lyra explained, her voice grim. "We must confront our deepest fears and doubts if we are to have any hope of defeating the cult." As soon as the trial began, Sarah found herself plunged into a nightmarish version of her life on Earth. She saw her greatest failures magnified 1,000-fold, buildings she had designed collapsing, people she cared about turning their backs on her, a future of loneliness and regret stretching out before her. "You don't belong here," a sinister voice whispered in her mind. "You're no hero, no savior. You're just a human, in way over her head. Give up. Go home. Forget all of this." Sarah gritted her teeth, fighting against the tide of despair threatening to overwhelm her. She reached out mentally, seeking Lyra's presence. "I won't give up," she thought fiercely. "I made a promise." She felt Lyra's consciousness brush against her own, equally embattled but unbroken. Together, they pushed back against the encroaching darkness, their combined will creating a beacon of light in the shadow-filled chamber. As they fought, Sarah began to understand the true nature of their bond. It wasn't just about power or prophecy. It was about balance, about two very different beings coming together to create something greater than the sum of its parts. With a final, monumental effort, they banished the last of the void energy from the chamber. As light footed back in, Sarah collapsed to her knees, exhausted but triumphant. Lyra knelt beside her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You did it," the Empress said softly. "We did it." Sarah looked up, a tired smile on her face. "Yeah, we did. But why do I get the feeling that was the easy part?" Lyra's expression turned serious. "Because you're right. The real battle is yet to come." As if on cue, Dr. Elix burst into the chamber, his multiple eyes wide with alarm. "Your Radiance." "Sarah, we've received word from our spies. The Void Cult is planning to attack the capital within 48 hours. Sarah and Lyra exchanged a grim look. Their time for preparation was up. The fate of Lumina, and potentially Earth, would be decided in the coming days. As they rushed to mobilize their forces, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. From a simple construction manager to a key player in an interstellar conflict, wielding powers she'd barely understood. The enormity of it all threatened to overwhelm her. But then she felt Lyra's presence in her mind, a reassuring warmth that bolstered her resolve. "We're in this together," the Empress's thoughts echoed. "And together, we are stronger than any darkness." Sarah nodded, squaring her shoulders as they stepped out to face the gathering storm. Whatever came next, she was ready to face it head-on. The Void Cult was in for one hell of a surprise if they thought Lumina would fall easily. As the twin suns of Lumina set on the horizon, casting the sky in a breathtaking array of colors, Sarah allowed herself one last moment of quiet reflection. Tomorrow, the battle for two worlds would begin, and she, Sarah Chen, former construction manager from New York, would be right in the thick of it. "Bring it on," she murmured to herself, a fierce grin spreading across her face. The Void Cult had no idea what they were in for. The gathering storm. The capital city of Astralis buzzed with frenetic energy as Sarah, Lyra, and their allies made final preparations for the Void Cult's impending attack. The normally serene crystal spires now bristled with defense systems, their surfaces shimmering with protective force fields developed by Dr. Elix. Sarah stood atop the highest tower of the Imperial Palace, surveying the city below. The sight still took her breath away. The graceful architecture, the streams of hovering vehicles, the very air itself seeming to pulse with life and energy. It was so alien, and yet, after these weeks of intense connection with Lyra and immersion in Luminan culture, it felt like a second home. Quite a view, isn't it? Zora's voice startled Sarah out of her reverie. The starborn warrior joined her at the railing, her typically fierce expression softened by a hint of melancholy. Sarah nodded. It's beautiful. Hard to believe it could all be gone soon if we fail. Zora's hand tightened on the railing. We won't fail, we can't. She turned to Sarah, her eyes blazing with determination. You know, when you first arrived, I thought you were a liability. A soft human who'd crumple at the first sign of real danger. Gee, thanks, Sarah said dryly. Zora grinned, punching Sarah's arm lightly. But you've proven me wrong. You've got steel in your spine, Sarah Chen. And more importantly, you've given us all hope. The way you and the Empress work together, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. Before Sarah could respond, a commotion from below caught their attention. A group of civilians was gathered at the palace gates, their voices raised in a mixture of fear and anger. We should check that out, Sarah said, already moving towards the lift. Zora nodded, following close behind. As they reached the ground level, they found Lyra already there, trying to calm the agitated crowd. Sarah's breath caught as she saw the Empress. No matter how many times she saw Lyra in her full regalia, the sight never failed to impress her. The Empress radiated power and grace, her cosmic energy barely contained beneath her shimmering skin. Please be calm, Lyra was saying, her voice carrying easily over the murmurs of the crowd. We have taken every precaution to ensure your safety. But why should we trust you? A voice called out. You abandoned us for 10,000 years, and now you return with this, human, claiming she's the key to our salvation. Sarah stepped forward, ignoring Zora's warning hand on her arm. You're right, she said, her voice strong and clear. You have no reason to trust me. I'm a stranger here, thrown into a conflict I barely understand. But I've seen what the Void Cult is capable of. I've felt the darkness they want to unleash on this world, and mine. She paused, looking out over the sea of alien faces. Some were hostile, others curious, all of them afraid. I can't promise you that we'll win this fight easily or without cost. But I can promise you this, I will leave everything I have to protect Lumina. This isn't just your fight anymore, it's mine too. A hush fell over the crowd. Then, slowly, a murmur of approval began to spread. Sarah felt Lyra's hand on her shoulder, a warm pulse of gratitude flowing through their bond. Well said, the Empress murmured. Raising her voice, she addressed the crowd once more. My people, I know I have much to atone for, but let us face this threat together, as we did in ages past. Lumina's light will not be extinguished. A cheer went up from the assembled Luminans. As the crowd began to disperse, many now volunteering to assist in the defense efforts, Lyra turned to Sarah with a smile. You continue to surprise me, Sarah Chen. You have a gift for inspiring others. Sarah shrugged, feeling a blush creep up her cheeks. I just spoke from the heart. Besides, you're the one they need to believe in. I'm just the sidekick. Lyra's expression turned serious. You are far more than that, and you know it. Our bond, our shared power, it's the key to everything. The Void Cult knows this, which is why they'll stop at nothing to destroy us. As if summoned by her words, a piercing alarm cut through the air. Dr. Elixir's voice crackled over the communication system. Multiple void rifts detected on the outskirts of the city. They're coming. Sarah and Lyra exchanged a grim look. This was it, the moment they had been preparing for. Are you ready? Lyra asked, extending her hand. Sarah took it without hesitation, feeling the now familiar surge of energy as their powers synchronized. Ready as I'll ever be. Let's show these cult fanatics what happens when you mess with Earth and Lumina. As they rose into the air, cosmic energy swirling around them, Sarah caught sight of their reflection in one of the crystal towers. The human and the alien Empress, hand in hand, a perfect balance of two worlds. It was an image that would have seemed impossible to her just weeks ago. Now, it felt right. It felt like destiny. The sky above Australis began to darken as the first wave of void cult ships emerged from swirling portals of absolute blackness. Sarah took a deep breath, centering herself as Lyra had taught her. She could feel the Empress's determination flowing through their bond, bolstering her own resolve. "For Lumina," Lyra said softly. "For Earth," Sarah added. Together, they shot towards the oncoming darkness, twin beacons of hope in the gathering storm. The battle for two worlds had begun. Humanity's stand. The sky above Australis erupted into chaos as the Void Cult's forces clashed with Lumina's defenders. Sarah and Lyra moved as one, their combined powers creating dazzling displays of light that cut through the encroaching darkness. Beams of pure cosmic energy lanced out from their joined hands, striking down cult ships and closing the void rifts they poured from. But for every rift they sealed, two more seemed to open. The cult's numbers were overwhelming, their ships like a plague of locusts blotting out the stars. "We can't keep this up forever," Sarah shouted over the din of battle, her body aching from the strain of channeling so much energy. "We need to find their leader, cut off the head of the snake." Lyra nodded grimly, agreed, but the Void Hierarch is a coward. He won't show himself unless. Her eyes widened suddenly. "Unless we make ourselves too tempting a target to resist." Sarah caught on immediately, not needing their psychic link to understand Lyra's plan. "We draw him out. Make him think he has a chance to take us both out at once." "Precisely," Lyra confirmed. "But it's risky. If we're wrong." "We don't have a choice," Sarah interrupted. "It's our best shot." They broke off their attack, descending to a large plaza in the heart of the city. As they touched down, Sarah saw their allies battling fiercely on all sides. Zora led a group of starborn warriors in a daring assault on a cult battlecruiser, while Dr. Elik's inventions created havoc among the enemy ranks. But they were outnumbered and outgunned. Sarah and Lyra stood back to back in the center of the plaza, their hands linked. They began to glow, brighter and brighter, until they were like a miniature sun. The light pulsed outward in waves, pushing back the encroaching void energy. "Come on, you bastard," Sarah muttered through gritted teeth. "Take the bait." For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like reality itself tearing apart, a massive void rift opened directly above them. From its inky depths emerged a figure that made Sarah's blood run cold. The Void Hierarch was a towering monstrosity, his body a writhing mass of shadows and corrupted cosmic energy. Where his face should have been, there was only a swirling vortex of darkness. When he spoke, his voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Empress Lyra," he rasped, his tone mockingly cordial. "How kind of you to offer yourself up for sacrifice. And you've even brought your pet human. How thoughtful." Lyra's grip on Sarah's hand tightened. "It ends here, Hierarch. Your darkness will not consume Lumina or any other world." The Hierarch laughed, a sound like grinding glass that set Sarah's teeth on edge. "Fool, the void is eternal. It is inevitable. Your precious light is nothing but a fleeting spark in the grand tapestry of cosmic night." As he spoke, tendrils of void energy lashed out, wrapping around Sarah and Lyra. Sarah gasped as she felt her power being drained, the light within her flickering. "Sarah," Lyra's voice cut through the encroaching darkness. "Remember the trials. Remember who you are." Fighting against the pain, Sarah forced herself to focus. She thought of Earth, of the life she'd left behind. She thought of Lumina, of the beauty and wonder she'd discovered here. Most of all, she thought of the connection she shared with Lyra, two beings from different worlds, united in purpose. With a defiant cry, Sarah pushed back against the void energy. Light burst from her body, shattering the dark tendrils. Beside her, Lyra did the same, their combined radiance forcing the hierarch back. Impossible, he snarled. No human should have this much power. Sarah grinned fiercely. That's your problem, big guy. You underestimate humanity. We might not have fancy cosmic powers, but we've got something just as strong, determination. With that, she and Lyra launched themselves at the hierarch. What followed was a battle unlike anything Sarah could have imagined. They moved in perfect synchronization, their powers complementing each other flawlessly. Where Lyra's cosmic might faltered, Sarah's human ingenuity found a way through. When Sarah's stamina began to flag, Lyra's ancient strength bolstered her. The hierarch fought back viciously, his void powers warping reality itself. Buildings twisted and crumbled around them, the very fabric of space-time buckling under the strain of their clash. But for every blow he landed, Sarah and Lyra struck back twice as hard. As the battle reached its climax, Sarah felt something deep within her shift. The power flowing through her was no longer just Lyra's cosmic energy. It was something new, a perfect fusion of human spirit and alien might. She met Lyra's eyes and saw the same realization there. Together, Lyra said, her voice resonating in Sarah's mind. Together, Sarah agreed. They raised their joined hands, and a beam of energy unlike anything Lumina had ever seen burst forth. It was not just light, but hope made manifest. The hierarch screamed as it struck him, his form beginning to unravel. This isn't the end, he raged, even as his body dissolved into motes of darkness. The void is eternal. It will return. Maybe, Sarah shot back, but so will we, and we'll be ready. With a final, earth-shattering explosion, the void hierarch was gone. The remaining cult forces, leaderless and outmatched, began to retreat. Cheers erupted across Astralis as the citizens realized the tide had turned. Sarah sank to her knees, exhausted but elated. Lyra knelt beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "We did it," the Empress said softly. "Because of you, Sarah Chen, you showed us all what humanity is truly capable of." As the twin suns of Lumina began to rise, bathing the battered but unbroken city in golden light, Sarah looked out over the crowd of celebrating aliens. She saw Zara grinning broadly, Dr. Elix gesticulating excitedly as he examined a piece of fallen cult technology. She saw hope rekindled in the eyes of people who had been on the brink of despair. "So," Sarah said, turning back to Lyra with a tired smile, "what's next?" Lyra laughed, the sound like music after the chaos of battle. "Next, my dear Sarah, we rebuild." And then, her eyes twinkled with an almost mischievous light. "Then we explore. There's a whole universe out there after all, and I have a feeling Lumina and Earth both have much to offer each other." As Sarah stood, accepting handshakes, hugs, and alien gestures of gratitude from the gathered Luminans, she felt a profound sense of belonging. She had found her place in a world beyond her wildest dreams, forged a bond deeper than any she had known on Earth. Whatever came next, rebuilding Lumina, establishing relations with Earth, facing new challenges, Sarah knew one thing for certain: she was exactly where she was meant to be. The human and the Empress, united in purpose, ready to face whatever the cosmos might throw at them. The future, like the rising suns of Lumina, was bright with possibility.